Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you're doing very well. If you don't mind, I'd like to take this opportunity to talk with you about a very special film in the Criterion Collection Laserdisc catalog. Citizen Kane. Directed by a filmmaker named Orson Welles, also starring Orson Welles. And this is a very famous film, an incredibly famous film, I think for good reason. It is a film that is charged, just so charged, I think, both emotionally and also quite distinctly in terms of its visual flair and also its way of telling narrative story in the medium of cinema. In many ways, I think it could be said to be creating a different kind of grammar, perhaps, in this cinema, in this mode of cinema. And therefore, it is undoubtedly a work of key significance and great importance. And I think more directly, it is a very powerful watch, a very powerful film indeed. And so this is Citizen Kane. Now, the Criterion Collection Laserdiscs are very plentiful, but we have this Laserdisc, which is considered now to be Criterion Collection Laserdisc number 1, spine number 1. Well, let's look at this particular release very quickly and just go from there in case you're interested. So this is from 1984, or at least according to the back it says 1984, and this is the box set of Citizen Kane. Now I say this because it is actually a box, right? And we have the front and then we have the back here, and this is housed in this box, and it opens like so. And I'll show you the contents in a minute. I should show you also that, well, before I get there, let me just say more things about the disc before I move forward. So this is a multi-disc set. In other words, the film is it carries over onto 5 sides because the film is 2 hours, and this is the this is CAV, and so we have all the film carried over onto what's here indicated as being 5 sides. Okay, so there are 5 sides over which the film is presented. Plus you have the supplements. Okay, so the supplements are very interesting, and let's take a look here very quickly. So what are the supplements that are included here? So we have, first of all, the film is in standard play or CAV format, which means that less amount of data can fit onto the disc itself. So therefore, you have only about 30 minutes or so that can fit onto one side. And so therefore, you can't fit a 2-hour film onto just one side of a disc. So you need to fit it on one side, and then fit it on the other side, and then take another disc and fit more of the film on that disc side, and then the other side, and so on and so forth. So therefore, the entirety of Citizen Kane, plus the supplements, are carried over onto 5 sides. Okay, so that's the CAV format release of Citizen Kane right here. And then there is a visual essay. Now, the visual essay is not in any way an essay that has an audio track narrative or anything like that. It's really just a freeze frame essay. So it's just frames of an essay. So what you do is you press the forward button and every time you press the forward button, it takes you to the next screen. And this is an essay by Robert L. Carringer. Now, this is a really long one. It's really long because it's divided into, I think, chapters, and there are pictures that illustrate the points that are being raised by Carringer about the various topics. The topics that are discussed in this very long essay are, for example, storyboard sketches, set designs, cinematography, makeup, and also memos on the Kane-Hurst controversy. So these are internal memos, studio memos, basically discussing, or not studio memos, but also internal company memos, discussing discussions that were had between studio and William Randolph Hearst. Hearst's disapproval of many aspects of this film, etc. So, and other aspects of the production. So this is to say that the visual essay here, which is again this sort of freeze frame, frame by frame essay, plus pictures, and it's very, very long, but it's fantastic. This is probably the first supplemental material that was released on a Criterion home media release. So this visual essay, it's really fascinating. Now, I have the Citizen Kane Blu-ray set, that big Blu-ray set that came maybe some years ago. And there are some great features on that as well, really great. And I think there's commentary tracks, right, plural. So really, really great. And I don't claim to be a scholar on Citizen Kane, so I don't know all the details. But what I can say is that this visual essay by Robert L. Carringer is so detailed and so informative that I found myself learning about new aspects of this film that I hadn't known prior to watching the visual essay supplement that's on the Criterion Laserdisc here, the CAV release of Citizen Kane. There are some really interesting details, for instance, about the makeup that was used, the prosthetic nose that's applied to actor Orson Welles when he's playing Kane, and certain aspects about Orson Welles, the shape of his skull. I mean, there's some really detailed things here that I've never known until watching this visual essay. So I found this to be very interesting. And also, the essay thus becomes a kind of archive, a televisual or a photo archive, if you will, of all of these stills and pictures of memos and storyboard artists' designs, on-set photos, publicity photos, you name it. It's all archived here, and there are hundreds in this visual essay. And you can just access them by pushing a button on your remote control for the Laserdisc player. So that's the key supplement here, which is this visual essay. And then the next supplement is the inclusion of the theatrical trailer, which was, at the time of this release of this Laserdisc, I understand to be quite rare. In fact, it's described on the back of the Laserdisc here as being a rarely seen 3-minute film made by Welles from original footage not contained in Kane itself. Now, I understand that the trailer has thus become readily available, and I think yes, I do believe that, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do recall that it is on that huge Blu-ray set of Citizen Kane that was released several years ago. But there you have it here. And also with Laserdiscs, right, and Criterion Laserdisc. Now, Criterion current Blu-rays and DVDs, you'll have the front and the back, of course, and the back will have a short description of the film and the presentation. And then the inside booklet will have an essay or essays. Well, for the Laserdisc, you go to the back cover. Generally speaking, you'll have not a short description, but rather you'll have a lengthy essay. And here we have a lengthy essay by Roger R. Smith. So this is Roger R. Smith's essay on Citizen Kane, and it talks in some detail about the reputation of the film Citizen Kane. It also talks about certain aspects of the story Citizen Kane. Also, it touches upon the controversy regarding its opening and William Randolph Hearst. And so it talks about other aspects, albeit briefly, because there's just so much space that can be discussed. But still, for a Laserdisc release, to have this kind of long essay on the back here, I think it's very fascinating. And so we have here, right, the so-called seeds, if you will, of Criterion and what we would know Criterion to be today. Well, it all starts here with this particular release of Citizen Kane in 1984. So just to note the cover design here, it's a silver motif cover. And we have Criterion Collection down here in this very interesting font. Then we have Citizen Kane up top here. And then we have a still right here. And we have in the corner here the logo of the Criterion Collection at the time. So very interesting details. And this motif, once again, is carried over to the back like so, with the block lettering Citizen Kane and the red motif accent, and then the what do you call it? The logo, the Criterion Collection logo there. Okay, so I should note also before we move on that there is no spine number on the spine. We do have the title Citizen Kane and then the Criterion Collection on this very interesting font, but we have no spine number. I'll get to that in a second. Let's just open it up very quickly and just show you what's inside. So this is a box set. So the box will open. Just shift this down here so you can see. There we go. Sorry about the poor quality of this video, but the box will open like so. And there are certain bits of paraphernalia here which I've decided to house in this sort of clear file just for protective purposes. But this clear file didn't come in this box, don't get me wrong, but it's just to make sure that these papers aren't folded in any unnecessary way. But first we have this letter here, right? Okay, so this is, it's very hard to see, I know, but this is a letter that is essentially a kind of survey. It says, "Welcome to the Criterion Collection. We believe you will find this initial title to be an exciting production. Our goal with this series is to extend the state-of-the-art of the presentation of fine film works for home video. Future releases will bring to you great screen classics produced with the same passionate concern for quality and innovation. We will be including, wherever possible, appropriate material such as a visual essay, a second separate audio track commenting on the film, trailers, and related short films." So what you have here, my friends, is a letter that sets forth the mission of the Criterion Collection at the time of this release. In these few lines, my friend, we have the basis, the birth of the Criterion Collection as we know it today. This piece of paper, I think, is so powerful, especially for those of us who are fans of the Criterion Collection. And so this is the rest of this is a survey, and it says, "We would love to hear from you about what Criterion is doing. Filling out the attached form will make sure we have your correct name and address on our mailing list." So this is a mailing list and also a survey. And thanks, let's skip down below. "Thank you for your interest in the Criterion Collection. Robert Stein, Publisher." So here, my friends, a letter from Mr. Robert Stein. It's addressed to anyone who has purchased this, so it's not addressed to me in particular, but it's just addressed as part of this, as part of Criterion's message here from Robert Stein. And we have included here a stamped envelope addressed to Criterion, P.O. Box in Santa Monica, California. So very interesting. And we have a stamp. Very nice touch here. I like this. So I'm assuming this would have been used to send to Criterion this survey, which you would have been expected to cut. There's a dotted line that you would have cut here. You would have written out all your answers, and I'm assuming you would have used this envelope and then mailed it off to Criterion, answering the questions. And some of the questions that are asked, by the way, are, my favorite types of films are, check as many as you wish. So classic films, comedies, horror films, action films, foreign films, contemporary dramas, musicals, science fiction, other. And it says, I would love to see the following films in the Criterion collection. And it has lines 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can write in films that you want to see in the Criterion collection. And it says also, the following features are of interest to me as indicated. And it has, a range from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 being great interest and 1 being no interest. And it has, you can say, so are you interested in CAV format, visual essays, a second audio track, interactive programming, surround sound? This is interesting. So this piece of paper says so much to me about the Criterion collection. And this, I think, is so kind of historic and so significant because, as I say, it really sets forth the groundwork of what we know and love about the Criterion collection today. It is all coming from this message, my friends, and I find this to be so extraordinary, as almost like a like a piece of history, I suppose. But anyway, let's move on. And we have next, which is very interesting. I don't know, this isn't anything particular, or this isn't anything that is, I think, included in all the box sets, but this is, I think, the invoice of the person that purchased this box set. So for whatever reason, the invoice is also included here. There is also a warranty card. Very interesting. It says, as a note, it says, these laser video discs have been produced to the most exacting quality standards possible. Criterion unconditionally warranties them to be free of defects in the manufacturing process. If they are not, please send them to us for immediate replacement. Criterion will pay the postage. Note, Criterion's warranty is limited to the replacement of defective discs. So Criterion was very keen on its warranty and its customer service from the very beginning. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And next we have this, which is very exciting. So for some of the Laserdiscs, in addition to these extra pieces of paraphernalia, what you'll sometimes find is a letter that's specific to the particular release. And this is a letter here, which is some important notes about the Criterion Collection edition of Citizen Kane. And this is from John Mulvaney. And, well, actually, it doesn't, let me take that back. It doesn't say it's from John Mulvaney. It says at the end, any comments, suggestions, or questions are welcome and should be addressed to John Mulvaney, care of Criterion. So this is not a letter per se, but these are notes about the release. And what do I mean by notes? Well, this sets forth specific technical aspects about a particular release from the Criterion Collection. So here we have the release Citizen Kane. So let's see. It says, for instance, it has recommendations on how to watch Citizen Kane based on color levels and stuff. So for example, let's see here. It says, the material used to produce this video disc was a negative found in the RKO vaults in Albany, New York. While not the original negative, which was burned under suspicious circumstances in the early 1950s, we believe this negative is the best available. Since Kane is in black and white, optimum viewing will likely be with the color level on your TV or monitor turned all the way down. set brightness controls high enough to bring out as much of the rich detail in the film as possible, but not so high that you begin to wash out the more subtly shaded areas. So as you can see, the notes are giving you suggestions as to how to set your TV or calibrate your TV to get the most enjoyment out of the film in terms of its visual quality. Very interesting. And then there are specific technical notes given about this release of the Criterion Collection on this Laserdisc that are similar in nature. So these notes, I think, are very interesting and very helpful when it comes to trying to watch this Laserdisc on my TV, even now. So thank you, Criterion, for giving me this information. Just to complete the exploration of this box set. So what we have here is inside, we also have the discs. So there are, it's spread out over 5 sides, so that means 3 discs. Right? So here is, here they are, and they're in these white sleeves. Here's another. And so just as an example, let me just show you what they look like. Here is side 1, and forgive me for the reflection. And there's my foot, so I apologize for that, but side 1 and side 2 right there. Okay. So this is, in a nutshell, very generally speaking, the Criterion Collection release here of Citizen Kane. Very interesting. But it doesn't end there, because we have this. Now, what is this, you ask? This is the second printing. This is the second printing of this Laserdisc release, Citizen Kane. So we have the first printing, which is here, which is in this box. And then we have the second printing. Now, as you can see, the cover design is the same as the earlier first printing, except we have the addition of this little logo here, which is the Janus Films Voyager Press indication right here. And I think for those of you who know Criterion and Janus Films, you'll find this logo to be familiar indeed. Okay. Look at the back. The back seems to be the same. The contents are the same, except this time, however, we have a couple other differences. First, please note the spine. It says 1 at the bottom. Now, this is very important because now we have the birth, if you will, of the spine number. We didn't see the spine number in the earlier box set, as you recall, but now in the second printing, we have the emergence of spine number. Here, this film, Citizen Kane, in the Criterion Collection Laserdisc catalog is indicated as being spine number 1. Very significant. Now, let's just continue on with this discussion very quickly. This is also interesting in that it is not a box set. Remember, the earlier release had the films or the late discs and the paraphernalia housed in a box. This is not a box, but rather this is, I'll show you. There we go. The discs come out like so, right? So it comes in this little shell, and then all the discs, 3 of them, if you recall, are here. So here's the first disc, so side 1 and 2, and then, oops, sorry about that, it's out of order. Side 3 and 4, and then side 5, but the 6th side is dormant. And then we also have the inclusion, at least mine here does, of the technical notes that are included. Right, so the technical notes, excuse me, sorry about that, that's this way. So the technical notes are right here. Very interesting indeed. So let me just show you, the discs themselves are the same, the contents are the same, but we have this slightly different presentation inside. The discs are now housed in these very interesting and decorated sleeves. So for instance, here's the first disc, sides 1 and 2. If you go to the back of the sleeve, we see a picture of Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, or Charles Foster Kane. Very interesting. Here is the second disc. I'm sorry, here's the second disc. So this is discs 3 and 4. And then if you turn to the back, here it is again. And the last disc here. And if you look at the back here, it says a drawing of Xanadu. And in fact, you have the spines. It's very difficult to see, but we have the spine. It says Citizen Kane, and it actually says sides 1 and 2, sides 3 and 4, and then sides 5. So just in case you needed to know which disc was which, that's the information set forth there. So this is the second printing of Citizen Kane, and I know it's the second printing because it indicates second printing at the corner of the back right here. And it's very interesting indeed. So we have not only this is the second printing, but it also is the birth of the spine number as we know it, spine number 1 in the Laserdisc catalog. But it doesn't end there, my friends, because what we have is we have yet another printing, which is third printing. Now, the third printing here is indicated as being 1987. I should point out that the earlier printings, the first printings and the second printings with the silver covers, were 1984 and 1985 respectively. Here we have a third printing, 1987, and the contents, my friends, are, as far as I can tell, the same. They are the same. And the essay that's included on the back is the same, right? But I think you can tell immediately that the presentation of the release, the cover design, etc., is quite different. It's the same, of course, in terms of the still that's used in the center here. It's the same famous still, or the moment of the speech, right? But as you can see here, we have now a black motif with red lettering here. And also for the first time we see emerging here at the top here, please look very carefully, this bar logo, the Criterion collection, and this is in gray. And then we have the Criterion logo as it was back in the day. But this is very significant here. Now this is something that we will see carried over into the early DVD releases from the Criterion collection, about 10 years from this particular release. But for now, we see the birth of this particular logo presentation of the Criterion collection, the so-called block lettering, capital letters logo. Very interesting. It's all here. It comes from here. And then if we look on the back here, again, we see the same similar layout, but in terms of the contents in the essay. But again, it's this black motif rather than the earlier silver motif. Very interesting indeed. And I should point out also that if you look at the spine, for whatever reason, my friends, you have Citizen Kane here, and then you have the Criterion collection here. As you can see, it has the lettering that I think we are used to in the DVD Blu-ray age, the DVD age, I should say. But at least as far as my particular copy here is concerned, there is no spine number. Very interesting indeed. Incidentally, I should say that the cover design was never indicated in the earlier silver cover releases, as far as I can tell. I was never able to find the cover design indication, but here there is small lettering on the back which says cover design by Beth Dorfman. But again, let me just show you what's inside. This is a box which is similar to the first box, except it doesn't have its own separate lid. At least my particular copy here doesn't. As you can see, it doesn't. It instead flips open like this, and the lid, the upper lid, is actually attached. It's attached with some kind of adhesive tape or glue that is, as you can there's a black piece of tape that runs across here. So this is by the means by which the upper lid is affixed to the body, or the bottom portion of the box. And then so we have here. So let me show you what's inside. This time we have the discs, but the discs are, instead of being housed in white sleeves or the ornate sleeves of the second printing, we have them, at least mine are in these little plastic baggies. So that's okay. I don't mind that at all. So here we go, the 3 discs in the plastic baggies. And I should point out, excuse me here, that the discs themselves, the interior ring is carrying over that kind of the black on the red on black motif of the cover design from the third printing here. So that's very interesting. But then let me just show you what's included as far as paraphernalia is concerned. We have, again, the notes on technical aspects of this release, very interesting. Then we have a thanks for your help kind of postcard that you're asked to fill out and send back to Criterion. So you're supposed to write your name, address, and then what Criterion title came with this card, what improvement is needed most in the presentation of feature films on video. Please list the titles you would like to see in the Criterion collection. So you have an opportunity to become on their mailing list and to give them recommendations for future titles to release. Fantastic. And then what's of interest here is this little thing here, this little insert. Now this is, I would say, the first, or one of the first inserts that shows the other titles in the Criterion Collection catalog at the time. So very interesting indeed. So we have other titles that emerge at this time. For instance, Citizen Kane, right? King Kong, Lady Vanishes, Third Man, The 39 Steps, Swing Time, High Noon, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Magnificent Ambersons, The Red Balloon, The White Mane, Black Orpheus, Tunes of Glory, The Horse's Mouth. So we have all of these goodies that appear here. Very interesting. So that is the so-called third printing CAV release of Citizen Kane. One more. Here we have the CLV release of Citizen Kane. So this is CLV, which means that we don't have issues as far as needing to spread out the film over many sides. We just have one disc, and so we just have one disc and two sides to spread out the entirety of this nearly 2-hour film. So you just have this one disc for the CLV release, but what that means, of course, is that all of the supplemental features are removed. So we don't have there is no inclusion of the trailer, and there is no visual essay. So yes, so you're getting the compactness and the ease of use, so to speak, of one disc versus many discs in the earlier CAV title releases. But part of that, however, means that you're losing the supplemental features that were included on the earlier releases, namely the visual essay and the trailer. So there's that. The essay on the back is the same. Excuse me. The essays on the back is the same, but we see how for the first time the inclusion on at least the outer covering here of this little poster, or the copy of the poster, which is interesting. But let me just return here. We have Citizen Kane, and again this block lettering of the Criterion Collection, which I think we will come to know when DVD comes to fruition. Also, let's look at the side here. Now this is CLV, but what's very interesting, and again I apologize for the poor quality of this video, but you can see here a little one. This is interesting. Now let me return to the third printing, which was here. The third printing, for whatever reason, did not have any 1 here. But the CLV printing, which is the one disc printing which I have here, which is thinner, does have a 1 indication. Okay, so this is spine number 1 for all intents and purposes. And just to complete the conversation, we have the disc, which is not housed in any kind of plastic baggie, but rather in this white sleeve, at least the copy that I was able to purchase. And then we have side 1 and side 2 accordingly. Okay, my friends, let me end it there, and I hope that was somewhat interesting to you. If not, I apologize, but I do think that the Criterion Collection Laserdiscs are very important, and that they form the fundamental backbone, the historic foundation for the Criterion Collection as we know it today. But I think also the Criterion Collection Laserdiscs themselves, the discs themselves, are incredibly important, filled with so much information. Now, as I said earlier, the visual essay by Robert Carringer that we saw on the CAV releases, I think, is filled with so much information, and many bits of information that I didn't find on the later Blu-ray release of Citizen Kane, for example. So I do think that the Laserdisc, even now, has a lot of worth and value because of the information that it holds and the way it's presented in these in the visual essay. So I'm not ready to discount the Laserdisc at all at this point in time anyway. So, but in any event, my friends, this is very significant in the context of Criterion, and the fact that it's Citizen Kane also, I think, is very important because of the importance of that film and the current landscape of cinema appreciation. So, my friends, I hope that was interesting for you. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. And otherwise, I hope to continue this sort of series. And with that in mind, my friends, next I will approach the next title in the Criterion Collection Laserdisc catalog, which is Spy Number 2, King Kong. So until then, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Until we meet again, my friends. Cheers.